right, we're going to turn to a polling question. We've got some more audience questions coming in that I want to address. But first, let's ask the audience a question. And this is a pretty specific one. Question is, how much rework do you experience in your CMCs when scaling up your freeze-thaw processes? Not much, occasional, some are challenging, or all the time? Go ahead and take a minute to respond to that question. Blair, Brian, do you have experience with CMC freeze-thaw processes and any anticipation of what the response might be? Is this a big challenge or not so much?
I can go first. Oh,
go for it, Brian.
Okay. Well, I mean, no surprise to the audience, the freeze-thaw process, for a biopharmaceutical product can have an abrupt change in the chemical and physical properties of the product and the solution. When you don't do a freeze-thaw process kind of correctly, it can stress proteins. It can irreversibly denature complex macromolecular structures. It could alter their solution stability. So, for example, if you have something that isn't amenable to a fast freezing process, then you can have ice crystals actually develop within the solution. And conversely, if you have a slow freezing kind of situation, that results in a different set of problems, which is most notably things like cryoconcentration of the proteins, where you have aggregation that takes place, and this causes shifts in solution pH, phase separation phenomena, and what that basically amounts to is big trouble for the protein structural integrity from a thermodynamic stability standpoint. And I think it goes without saying that if you have issues with a freeze-thaw type of procedure, you can't guarantee that the product is going to consistently meet the critical quality attributes like pH or the protein concentration, and that's going to ultimately result in variable bioavailability and efficacy between batches of drug product that's produced. So that's kind of and I've seen that, with several sponsors I've worked with where they really need to work carefully on these freeze-thaw procedures. Blair, feel free to comment.
No, similar. As we're developing the formulation for the protein, it's one of those attributes we look at as the freeze-thaw capabilities. What is the TG prime of those physical characteristics of the solution that are going to help drive freeze-thaw characteristics? And we stress the protein to understand the dynamics, because as you indicated, when you're thawing something, the concentration of solutes continually changes. It's not homogeneous until it's all thawed and you've mixed it up. So you have to understand those dynamics and how your protein will react. Or we've seen some, also with the AAV, we've seen some interesting changes because the formulation was off. Some are very challenging, particularly depending on your route of administration. Others, it's not as not a big a concern. It's really product dependent.
Miles, let's take a look at those results. See how they align with Blair and Brian's commentary. Some are challenging. Looks like some are challenging.
Yep.
So I'd say that aligns. It's a safe statement to make. I want to address a couple more audience questions while we're getting them in here. Let's see. This is an interesting one. Brandon asks about where the change is being driven. CDMOs are investing in e-notebook and analytics processing and reporting systems. Blair, you talked a little bit about using those in your organization, as well as digital submission portals and cloud-based exchange forms, which we're gonna shift gears here, FYI, and start talking shortly about regulatory and some of those coming technologies. But anyway, back to the question. Their speed to deliver is a competitive advantage. Do you see CDMOs playing a key role in driving industry acceptance of digital systems that accelerate the delivery of PD and CMC data, or are the innovator companies driving this trend? Brian, I want to start with you, just to get your perspective. Like I said, from a consultancy standpoint, you've got some exposure to a broad array of companies and probably outsourcing partners. Where do you see the change coming from? Who's adopting it most?
Well, I actually see the change coming from the top, meaning the health authorities. So there are sweeping changes with regards to, as you put it, digital submissions and advanced technologies to kind of speed up the review and approval process. They're coming from many different health authorities like the FDA, EMA, and ICH, and I'll talk about those going forward. But those are kind of the catalysts or drivers for change. Sponsors or rather CROs are the first to kind of jump on the bandwagon and support those endeavors by offering software packages and developing technologies for sponsors to use. One of the leading sponsors in the country for these types of advanced submission technologies is Amgen, by the way. They've done a wonderful job at embracing some of these recent initiatives from the FDA and stuff. But it's kind of I think it's kind of coming actually from the top.
Yeah. Well, Blair, Brian just mentioned that Amgen's an early and progressive adopter. Were they when you were there? Or was that the notebook and conference table days?
That was definitely the notebook and conference table days.
Those were the days, right, Blair?
Yeah.
Who's driving it at Sumitovant and Enzovant? Where is, you mentioned that the companies are moving towards the adoption of some of this tech. Where was the initiative coming from?
So the initiative starts with the top of our leadership, who want to be a digitally advanced organization and embrace the use of digital technologies. Then it falls to the various functional groups to really drive what are the digital advancements needed in each of our disciplines to help move that entire kind of mission forward. Working obviously together with the IT infrastructure to ensure that they can integrate together, because that's one of the biggest issues we find is there's some great platforms that may work in isolation, but if they can't talk to each other, we lose a lot of the capabilities and advancements that we could generate from that data and that cross communication. So those are some of those things that really are the keys for us as we think about landing new technologies on board.
Yeah.